August 6th, 1945. Hiroshima, Japan. A man is walking through a field when the sky turns white. He survives. He drags himself out of the ruins. He finds shelter. And then he boards a train home. 3 days later, the same man is sitting in his office in a different city, telling his boss about the bomb that just destroyed Hiroshima. His boss looks at him and says, "One bomb can't destroy an entire city. That's impossible." And then the sky turned white again. His name was Tsutomu Yamaguchi, and he is the only person in recorded history officially recognized as a survivor of both atomic bombs. This is his story. Tsutomu Yamaguchi was born on March 16, 1916 in Nagasaki, Japan. Not Hiroshima, Nagasaki. Remember that. It matters later. He grew up in a Japan that was rapidly changing, industrializing, militarizing, expanding across Asia. By the time he was an adult, the country was at the center of a global war. But Tsutomu Yamaguchi wasn't a soldier, he was an engineer. He worked for Mitsubishi Heavy Industries, one of the biggest industrial companies in Japan, designing ships, solving problems, doing his job. He was a quiet man, methodical, precise. By the summer of 1945, he was 29 years old, married. He had a young child at home. His life was ordinary, and then his company sent him on a business trip. Hiroshima. He'd been there for about 3 months, working on a new oil tanker design for Mitsubishi. August 6, 1945 was supposed to be his last day in the city. He had finished his assignment. He was supposed to collect his papers, say his goodbyes, and get on a train back home to Nagasaki. Back to his wife, back to his child. That was the plan. But before he could reach the station, he realized he had forgotten something. His travel papers. So he turned around, and that small detour placed him exactly where he was when the world changed forever. It was 8:15 in the morning. Yamaguchi was walking through a potato field on the outskirts of Hiroshima. He was approximately 3 kilometers from the city center. 3 kilometers, that's less than 2 miles. Above the city, an American B-29 bomber named the Enola Gay released a bomb called Little Boy. Uranium, 15 kilotons of destructive force, the kind of weapon the world had never seen before. It detonated at roughly 600 meters above the ground. Yamaguchi described it like this: "There was a great flash in the sky, and I was blown off the ground. The blast wave hit him like a wall. His eardrums burst. He went temporarily blind. The left side of his body, his arm, his shoulder, his face was engulfed in burns. He was knocked into a field. For a moment, he didn't know if he was alive or dead. When his vision came back, barely, what he saw was not a city anymore. It was a wasteland. Hiroshima, a city of 350,000 people, had been vaporized in an instant. Around 80,000 people died that morning alone. Tens of thousands more would die from radiation in the weeks that followed. And Tsutomu Yamaguchi, burned, bleeding, half-blind, ears ringing, was still standing. Here's the question I want you to sit with. What would you have done next? You've just survived an explosion you don't understand. Your body is on fire. The city around you is gone. What would you do? Yamaguchi didn't run. He couldn't. He spent hours in the ruins of Hiroshima trying to find other survivors. He eventually found 2 colleagues from Mitsubishi who had also survived the blast. Together, they helped each other through the wreckage. They found a shelter, an air raid bunker, and they collapsed inside. That night, Hiroshima burned. The firestorms were so intense that survivors described a black rain falling from the sky, radioactive ash and water mixing into dark, toxic droplets. Yamaguchi lay in the shelter with burst eardrums, massive burns across his body, and almost no medical care, because there was almost no one left to provide it. Hospitals had been destroyed. Doctors were dead or missing. The city was silence and smoke. He spent the night in that shelter, feverish, in tremendous pain, and completely uncertain about whether he would make it to the morning. He did. On August 7th, Yamaguchi managed to get to a naval base on the outskirts of the city. He received basic treatment for his burns. Bandaged up, barely, he made a decision. He boarded the train, and he was going home to Nagasaki. August 8th, 1945. One day after surviving the world's first nuclear attack, Tsutomu Yamaguchi boarded a train. He was wrapped in bandages, his arm and body covered in burns, his hearing barely functional. The train ride from Hiroshima to Nagasaki takes several hours. Think about that journey. Looking out the window at a world that didn't yet know what had just happened, at towns and villages that were still standing, at people who had no idea. What was going through his mind? Was he trying to forget it? Was he replaying every second? Was he just thinking about getting home to his wife and his son? We don't know for certain, but we know he made it. On August 8th, Tsutomu Yamaguchi arrived home in Nagasaki. His wife was there. His infant son was there. They were alive. He was home. And the next morning, because he was Tsutomu Yamaguchi, because that was the kind of man he was, he went to work. Yes, he went to work. August 9th, 1945. He showed up at the Mitsubishi office in Nagasaki with his bandages and his burns and his burst eardrums, and he sat down with his supervisor. And he began to tell him what had happened in Hiroshima. Now, before I go any further, think about this moment. A man who just survived a nuclear bomb is sitting in an office 3 days later in a completely different city. Would you have gone to work? Yamaguchi's supervisor listened to the story, and then he shook his head. "One bomb can't destroy an entire city," he said. "That's impossible." Tsutomu Yamaguchi had been approximately 3 kilometers from the center of the first bomb. Now he was sitting in an office in Nagasaki, approximately 3 kilometers from what would become the center of the second bomb. It was 11:02 in the morning, and the sky turned white again. Silence. Then a shockwave. Everything shakes. The bomb dropped on Nagasaki that day was called Fat Man. Plutonium. 21 kilotons. Even more powerful than the Hiroshima bomb. The hypocenter was different from Hiroshima. The hills around Nagasaki contained some of the blast, but it still killed between 40,000 and 80,000 people instantly. And Tsutomu Yamaguchi was there. Again. The blast wave tore through the office. His bandages, the ones from Hiroshima, were blown off his body. He was knocked down. The world went dark.
When he came to, he was alive. Again. In a destroyed city. Again. His wife, who had been near their home, had survived as well. She had been sheltering from wasps and was protected by a concrete wall when the bomb hit. His infant son also survived. By some extraordinary margin of fate, the Yamaguchi family, all of them, had survived both bombs. But the story doesn't end there. It was only beginning. In the days after Nagasaki, Yamaguchi's body began to fail. Radiation sickness set in. His hair fell out. High fever, vomiting, weakness. His burns festered. For years, for decades, Yamaguchi rarely spoke about what he had experienced. Like many hibakusha, the Japanese term for atomic bomb survivors, he carried the weight of it in silence. There was stigma in Japan around survivors. Some people feared them. Some employers wouldn't hire them. The trauma was immense, and much of it was unspoken. He rebuilt his life slowly. He returned to work. He raised his family. But the effects stayed with him. Chronic health problems, trauma, loss. His daughter later died of cancer, a fate many hibakusha families suffered. It wasn't until later in his life that Yamaguchi began to speak publicly. And when he did, the world listened. In 2006, a Japanese author published a book about him, Nijū Hibakusha, documenting his experience as a double survivor. The story spread globally. And in 2009, when Tsutomu Yamaguchi was 93 years old, the Japanese government officially recognized him as a nijū hibakusha, a double bomb survivor. He is the only person in history to hold that official designation. There were an estimated 70 to 165 people who survived both bombings, but he is the only one who was officially recognized. The only one. In his final years, Yamaguchi became a voice for something bigger than himself. He met with world leaders. He addressed the United Nations. He wrote. He spoke. He testified. His message was always the same. No one else should ever have to experience what I experienced. And here's the thing that gets me. This man, who had every reason to be broken, chose to become a witness instead. He turned his survival into a mission. What do you think gave him that strength? Tsutomu Yamaguchi died on January 4th, 2010. Stomach cancer, age 93. He had outlived the bombs by 65 years. His final wish, the thing he asked the world to carry forward, was simple. A world without nuclear weapons. He never got to see it. We haven't gotten there yet. But here's what I keep thinking about. There are moments in history that feel so large, so impossible, that they seem like they belong in fiction. One man, two bombs, two cities, 3 kilometers each time. The sheer statistical improbability of it borders on the unbelievable. And yet, it happened. He was real, and so was the destruction he survived. 70,000 dead in Hiroshima, 40,000 to 80,000 dead in Nagasaki. Numbers that our brains can't process, but Tsutomu Yamaguchi stood in the middle of both of them and lived to tell the world. That matters. If this story hit you, and I think it did, share it with someone who wouldn't normally click on history content, because stories like this are exactly why history matters, not as dates and facts, but as human beings who lived through the impossible. Like the video if you made it this far. It genuinely helps the channel reach more people. Subscribe if you're new here. We do this kind of deep human storytelling every week. And comment below. What part of Tsutomu's story stayed with you the most? Next time, we're going into another story most people have never heard. A story about a decision made in the space of seconds that changed the course of history. You won't want to miss it.